Oh, I think there's also, whoops, got it, okay. I think there was something I was supposed to say about moving your Zoom settings to active speaker so that I am big so that you can see the painting big. Anyway, let's talk about what we're doing tonight. Here's our model. This will be the as we go and the where we want to get to examples here. You will need something circular to trace. A plastic cup works great, or like a roll of tape, or the bottom of a sour cream container, or the top of the sour cream container. Anything circular to trace is going to be helpful for the start of this. And then we actually only need 3 colors, black, white, and that accent color of your choice. For our example, we have different shades of magenta. Today's magenta day. That's why I wore my shirt. So we've got different shades of magenta on the example, but you can pick any color you want. If you have lots of blues in your house, maybe you do blues, or greens would work, or even neutrals like oranges and browns and things like that could work as well. You just decide what you want it to look like. Okay, so black, white, and a color of your choice. Okay, so to start, we're going to get our circle up in the corner. So I'm in the upper left quadrant of the canvas here with my cute little plastic cup. And I'm going to trace it with a pencil. Right there. Okay, so that's done. That's going to help me stay circular for my moon. And then once that is drawn, we can start pouring our paint. For right now, we really just need black and white. I'm still here, even though I'm invisible. Okay, so on our palette, here's my fancy schmancy styrofoam palette. I'm gonna need a decent amount of white. Oh, hold on, let me get this real quick. My black is a little bit flatulent, so let's see. And then we'll squeeze some black, probably not as much black. You won't need quite as much black because a little bit goes a long way. Okay, and then make sure you have water, a cup of water, so that you can not just wash out your brush, but other times we'll want to thin out our paint. If anytime you're painting and it's starting to feel really gummy and chunky, that's a signal that you need a little bit of water on your brush. Okay, so we're going to start with a larger size brush, large to medium. Or you can use one of those. And go ahead and dunk that brush in your water. We need some liquid white to be our blender helper again. So water in our brush, and I'm going to get a nice thinned out little puddle of liquid white here. So, whoop, see how liquidy I am? So I had some water, and now I'm just kind of twirling it around and making white, really thin, liquidy white to be our blender helper. Okay. And you know, I almost painted with it and then I realized what I was doing. So I'm gonna need that, but right away I'm gonna go into painting some grays. So actually let's make up our gray so that it's all mixed up and ready. So off to the side again, I'm starting with my lighter color. Whenever I mix colors, always start with the lighter, weaker color because the other one, you know, will dominate if you don't start with the weaker color. So a teensy little bitty baby dot of black mixed in with that white is going to make a light gray. You need it really light Picture a cartoon mouse in your brain. That's the shade of gray we want. And then I also want a darker gray. So I'll take another scoopy scoop, second scoop, and I'll get a little bit bigger dot of black and make a darker gray. So now I have a few different shades of gray. I also want a really dark one. Okay. That was maybe a little too dark. Moss white, okay. Okay, so I have my super liquidy white that's dripping all over the place because I keep tilting my palette to show you. So liquidy white, a really light gray, kind of a medium gray, and a dark gray. Okay, getting the excess off my brush, and then I'm gonna wash out my brush in my water. Okay, looks good. Okay, so the super liquidy white is what we want first. It's gonna be our blending helper. And everything we're doing around this moon is gonna go in a really circular motion. I like my brush strokes to show. I think it looks cool and expressive. But if you want it to be perfectly smoothly blended, that's another option. You can do that too. Okay, so I'm around my moon. I'm getting that super liquidy white. In fact, we might as well paint the moon white too, but I still just want to make sure that I can see that circle that I drew. I can still see it through, but now it blends well. Okay, so right away, while this bad boy is still really nice and wet, I'm gonna start dipping into my light gray. And whoop, I can start painting my light gray around that moon. I'm moving my whole shoulder, not my wrist. Okay. Trying to somewhat keep my circle a circle. Okay, so I've got my light gray. Then right away, again, while my paint is still wet, I'll dip into the medium gray. And going in a similar fashion. I'll get those brush strokes in there. That liquidy white should be help making the blending fairly easy, but again, I'm not really trying to make it perfectly blended. I'm letting my brush stroke show. So I did that light gray, medium gray, and then I'll dip into the really dark gray. And that's what's gonna go next. So I'm not gonna go too far in, but I'm gonna make sure I touch the next gray at least so that it'll start to sort of blend together at least a little bit. Okay. If it's not blending entirely like you like, you can always dunk your brush in the water. That'll help the paint spread easier. If it's not looking like it's shining, glowing yet, it might be because your three grays are too similar, would also cause that to happen. So you can always just keep adjusting on your palette, making sure that the dark is dark enough for your problem solving. Let's do some problem solving over here. Boop. Here's the nine-year-old's painting. Looking good, looking good. I'm seeing that the light gray is probably not quite light enough. So we'll add a little more light there. And then once the light is light enough, suddenly the dark looks correct now. Hey, Zoe, hold this in place real quick. Put your hand right there. If you lost your circle, you can also just put that cup back and paint around it. Okay, lift it up. There we go. We're looking circular now. Oh, okay, yeah, and then if we put the dark that's a little bit darker, it's gonna make everything work. Okay, so Zoe, just keep bringing that out. Okay, let's come back over here. Okay, so I got most of the moon pretty much painted. So as I continue, I'm just gonna keep going out, out, out. Like that moon is so bright and shiny. Actually, I think it might be a full moon tonight. So definitely didn't plan that, but that's pretty cool. Okay, so I've got more paint here. I'm gonna keep going out. I might even dip into the black just so I have variety. I want my round circular brush strokes to show. I can also dip into a little bit of my lighter grays if I want to. Again, just for variety, so I have different shades of gray showing. How are you painting so fast, Jessie? It's because I have enough paint on my brush. I have enough water mixed in with it so it's thin enough that it's spreading real easily. And because I'm painting with my whole arm, not little wimpy wrist actions. I'm moving my whole arm. Okay, so I am, even though this bottom part is going to be covered, I'm going to paint it anyway, just because I'm not entirely sure where my trees will go. So I just went ahead and went down. I do need this bottom part to dry though fairly quickly, so I'm not going to glob on the paint too thick down here at the bottom because I do need it to dry out for me. Okay. It's a little bit of a glare on my canvas. There we go. The glare on my canvas wasn't showing what's really happening. So towards the bottom, I got kind of boring with just flat gray because it's mostly going to be covered with my trees. But you can see that the moon is white. Right around that moon is really light gray. And then it starts to get darker and darker as it gets farther away from the moon. That is going to create the illusion that our moon is super bright and shiny. Okay. So we're most likely still painting canvas, I'm guessing. So I'll just pause a minute. Zoe's helping me pace over here. She's almost done painting. So we use some of my gray here. So get a nice big scoop and then it'll go faster if you have enough paint. There you go. Move your whole shoulder, not just your wrist. Look how fast that's going now. Okay. All right. So as you're finishing up covering the canvas, the next thing we'll be doing is mixing our colors for our tree. So this is a monochromatic painting. There's your vocabulary word for the night. Monochromatic means mono means one and chroma means color. So it's one color. But in art, it means one color plus black and white. So it's tints, shades, and tones of one color. So hopefully you know what color you want already. Let's see, I'm trying to decide if I want to do the same as the example or switch it up. Kind of feeling blue maybe, since I already have a pink one. Yeah, done. Okay, so I already have some black and white on my palette already. So then I'm gonna reach for the next color. Got blue. We just got a beta fish who is blue, and we named him Prince Azul. So maybe this painting's for him to match our fish. Why not? All right, we're going to be just dunk your brush in the water and use what's on your plate. Okay, we're going to be mixing up some colors next. I was using a fairly large-ish brush for the background, but I'm gonna, I think, switch to more of a medium size now for the trees. So I went down a size for the trees. This would also be honestly an excellent time if you're feeling like being messy would be really therapeutic. This is a very appropriate time to finger paint, really. Okay, anyway, just gotta put that out there. So I put some blue on my palette, and what I need to do next is mix up a dark, medium, and light blue. So let's start with the light blue, why not? So I'm scooping some of my leftover white onto a different part of my palette. I'll get a little bit of blue. Again, I'm starting with the lighter color first, and then I mix the blue with it until I get a nice sky blue, or whatever color you're using. You can use blues, you can use reds, oranges, yellows, whatever floats your boat. Okay, so I've got my light blue. That is called a tint, by the way. A color plus white is called a tint. A shade is a color plus black. A tone is a color plus gray. I needed a little more white. Okay. So I have my lightest shade of blue. Now I need a medium blue. So I'll get a much heftier scoop this time and mix up my medium blue. I need to make sure it's significantly different than my light blue. Otherwise, it won't have the same amount of depth if my colors aren't different enough from each other, if they don't have enough contrast. Okay. Okay, so I have my light blue, medium blue. I might also use some of the blue like right out of the tube. And then I need to make a dark blue as well. So this time my blue is actually the weaker color in the case of making my shade, which is a color plus black. So I scooped some blue. I'm gonna mix a little bit of black with it. If you ran out of paint, squeeze out a little more paint. Okay, so I've got my shade. I want to make sure it's not too dark. Okay, so those will work with pretty much every color. If you picked red, same thing. Red or magenta with your white's going to make a light pink, a little bit brighter, more medium dark pink. Same by just adding a little bit of white rather than a lot of white. And then your dark red is going to be red with just a tiny itty bitty bit of black. The only color, I should have said this already. I hope no one, if you picked yellow, you will find that yellow, okay, I'm glad this didn't affect you, Jody. If you picked yellow, you will find that a little bit of black mixed with yellow does not make dark yellow. It makes baby poop green. Fun fact. I can only see Jody. So if you picked yellow, I would not add black to your, oh, there we go. Oh, you got purples. I didn't even say purple. Yeah, purple would be a great choice as well. Love it. So light, medium, and dark of whatever color you have. If you picked yellow, white mix is great with yellow, but to make a dark yellow, you almost need to add like a little dot of red, or even like a brown, reddish brown would darken your yellow without turning it into baby poop green. So we're gonna set up Princess Zoe here with some more paint. So we've got some more white for her. What color are you doing, my dear? Pink, purple? Purple, yeah. So a great way to make purple is with magenta and a little bit of blue. Red and blue make a decent purple as well, but not quite as good as magenta and blue. Okay, that was plenty of paint. She can start mixing her light, medium, and dark colors now. Jody, you looks like you had yours pretty much mixed. I'm gonna use you as my gauge. So I'm getting that brush again, the medium brush, okay. And then you'll see that our darker colors belong at the bottom. And then as we go up, we'll get lighter and lighter and lighter. Okay. I also, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't want like an outline, but I do want to give myself kind of a little bit of a gauge for the shape of my trees and what I want to happen so that it doesn't kind of go out of control. So let's see, with my light color, I guess I'll give myself a few little indications of where I want my trees to be. So let's see. Down here, I want them to be a little bit more down this way. And then I'll have some go up sort of this way. And then over here, they'll kind of come this way and then get taller up here. I'm just putting a few little marks of where I want the tops of the trees to be. And that'll help it have a little more movement if it's not just like a hedge, you know? Okay, so see, I'm hoping you can see that. Again, the shine of the paint makes it a little difficult, but what I did there was just put a few little dots where I want the tops of the trees to be. So down at the middle of your canvas, you want them to go lower. They're kind of sort of generally growing like toward the moon. Okay, once I have a plan on there, I can start painting. Okay, so I'm getting my darkest color on my medium-sized brush, and I'm really loading it up. Okay, with my medium-sized brush, I'm almost like imprinting it. Like I said, this would totally be an appropriate place to finger paint. Your pinky finger dipped in your paint would also kind of do this, you know? The red, the littler red one. There you go. So we've got a medium-sized brush. I'm kind of just tapping the paint on. I have a lot of paint on my brush as I'm doing this, so it makes a pretty good mark. You'll also notice I'm kind of holding it sideways. Seems to be working pretty good. Some marks here. Whenever I do anything like this, that's similar to stippling. Stippling is where we kind of make dots with our art tool, whether it be a paintbrush or a pen or a pastel or whatever. Creating images with kind of that stabby motion is called stippling. Anyhow, whenever I do that, I find that if I work in little clusters, it feels like it's going faster, which makes me want to keep going. So I'm just kind of staying in the same little section and making little clusters of those brush marks. Woo. That black got aggressive there. Mix some more blue, no harm done. Okay. And then as I'm going up, I'm filling in, not solid necessarily, but pretty solid down towards the bottom here. And as I'm going up, I'm going to make my marks less close together. So you're going to see more of the, I don't know if the glare is keeping me from that. You're going to start seeing more of the gray canvas show through as I go up. So I'll go up just a little bit higher, probably another couple inches. And as I keep going up, my marks will start getting farther apart from one another. And I'm still using my darkest version of whatever my color is. With what? You doing it? Let's check on our other example here. Let's see the screen. Okay, so you can see that Zoe's is using purple, and she's got lots of marks down toward the bottom. So now, doing the same thing, I'm going to start making them farther apart like this. And just keep going up. And we're about ready to switch to our next color. Okay. So here's a close-up of what I'm doing here. Down at the bottom, the marks are really close together. As they go up, they get farther apart, more of the gray will show through. Okay. And I am ready to switch to my medium. Same brush. So this time, so I'm using blue, so now I'm going to dip into just straight blue out of the tube for a bit, and then I'll move to the blue that I mixed up with a little bit of white. And last is when I do the lightest light, and that actually just goes on the edges, which will kind of give that glowing effect. So I'm dunking into my straight blue with a lot of paint on my brush. Makes it easier to make marks. And I'm going to start probably about midway to the tree here. I might have a little bit of my regular blue down toward the bottom, but it's mostly up here. Okay. So the branches actually go on last for this tree because of the worm's eye view kind of that's happening. We're looking up from underneath just a little bit here. Okay, okay. So I probably have enough of that blue on there. Let me do a zoom in just so you can see how much I put on there. So down towards the bottom is my dark blue. I started to space them out as I went up. Then I just added blue out of the tube, mostly towards the middle section of each part of the tree. And next I'm going to dip into the blue that I added just a little bit of white to. So I just did straight out of the tube. And now I can do the blue that I added a little bit of white. And I will put that mostly toward the top, probably, not so much towards the bottom. Okay. Another fun thing to do is to go back and forth into your other colors. And if you make them touch, they'll kind of mix with each other, which is nice. So while some of my lighter blue is still wet, I might go back in with my other from the bottle blue. I can kind of overlap them. They'll get a little bit mixy, which is fun. I had too much of that other blue on my brush. It was not letting the other colors show. So I'm just kind of going back and forth and layering my colors, putting wet colors on top of wet colors because then they blend together right there on the canvas and make new colors, which is always nice for those new colors to kind of just show up right before your eyes.
Where'd you go?
Oh, uh-oh.
Where'd you go? Okay.
Am I back?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. I'm glad you alerted me that I disappeared. Okay. I am running low on battery. I'm gonna grab a charger cable before my camera shoots off or turns off. So I'm gonna put this in the screen, keep painting. There we go. I am plugged in. Now it won't turn off on me. Okay. All right, we're good, we're good. Okay. So while these colors are still wet on my canvas, I'm gonna go ahead and start dipping into my lightest blue, which I haven't touched yet. That's the one that we mixed up first, or yours may not be blue, your lightest color, the one that has the most white mixed in with it. And then that color will go mostly on the ends and a little bit in the middle, just so it looks like it's blending. And you'll notice that this time, I'm kind of turning my brush so that it makes a little bit of a smaller mark, not quite as large as when I had it flat the other way. So keeping that lightest color mostly on the edge will create kind of a glowing effect, like that moon is shining so bright behind those trees that they're glowing. I'll put a few on the inside as well, just so it blends a bit. Okay. And what you can do next is you'd like to get kind of that blendy action again that we had talked about before. You get that by overlapping your colors while they're still wet, especially with that lightest color that has a lot of white in it. White really helps things blend. So I get my whites on there and then go back into my other colors and kind of overlap them. It'll make it create new colors right there on my canvas. So I'm just going right on top of that wet light blue. This painting is very impressionistic in style, and the Impressionists liked to use optical mixing, which is where your eyes blend the colors for you rather than doing it so much on the actual canvas. So if you squint at your painting, you'll see how it's optically mixing, and you'll be able to tell a little bit more what it's going to look like when you step back. Because I mean, art is meant to be viewed like back a little bit, up close too, but generally it is on a wall being looked at from, a little bit of a distance usually. So if I kind of squint, I can tell how my colors are mixing. So when I squint here, I'm seeing most of the light toward the edges, mediums in the middle, and darks at the bottom, and that's what I want. If it looks really spotty still, just keep overlapping and it'll fix itself, especially if you kind of concentrate in one area at a time. Painting on top of paint that is still wet is going to help you a lot. You can see over here on my left, I was still a little bit spotty, splotchy looking, so I'm gonna overlap and layer some more color over here. Okay, so that looks about how I want it to. I'll go ahead and do close up of what we've got there. Lights towards the edges, mediums in the middle, darks towards the bottom, lots of overlapping. Let's do some problem solving with Zoe's painting. She thinks she needs help, even though it looks awesome. Let's have it. Because answering questions will probably help everybody. So let's see what she has here. We've got a beautiful purple painting from Miss 9-year-old Zoe, and it looks really good. I'm guessing that you're wanting the colors to fade more, blend more, something like that. So here's what we can do. I'll get some water on the brush. Let's see, and let's just do some layering and we'll see what that does. Yeah. So she's got a lot of really nice color down already. And I'll just overlap a little bit more. Short little brush strokes there. We'll just define the edges of the trees a little bit more. They were kind of fading into the dark background. So along the edges, we'll concentrate that lighter color. And then right away, while it's still wet, we'll get some other shades of purple overlapping because they're going to make even more colors as they overlap. While it's wet, going on top. Okay. Get some tall ones up here too. Okay. And if the trees are all kind of the same height with your lightest color, you can make some of them kind of a little taller and reach over toward that moon. Okay. Good? Yeah? Okay. I'm gonna take her purple one down. Take that. And then put my blue guy back up here. Okay. And the last step is to put in the tree trunks, which actually you really don't have to do, optional. It would look fine and good and great just like that. But if you'd like another layer, the tree trunks go in with just some black paint that's thinned out with a little bit of water so that it'll help you get a nice line. You probably want to switch to a pointy brush. Here's my pointy brush. And actually, you know what? One of my favorite brushes for lines is this really cheap little $1 Michael's brush with a plastic handle that is meant for like probably second graders, but it's angled. And if you turn it vertical, it makes a really nice line, actually, this cheap little angle brush. A pointy guy would also be great. So I'll start by dunking it in water. A pointy one, like maybe that one. And then thin out some of your black paint. Not as much as we did with the white, but if it's too gummy and chunky, it's really hard to get a good line. Okay. So we also want the tree limbs and trunks and everything to somewhat kind of point to the moon as well. And here's kind of the rundown on how to paint tree branches and tree trunks. So they always go thick to thin. So at their base, we'll paint it thicker and then taper skinnier as it goes up. And a lot of that is the angle of your brush and how hard you're pushing. So if I'm pushing like with firm pressure on my brush, it's going to paint a pretty fat line. But if I'm barely touching the brush and I'm using mostly just the point of the bristles, it'll get a lot thinner. So kind of pay attention to how hard you're pressing, and also the angle that you're holding it will affect how thin or thick the line is. Another thing about tree trunks and tree branches, so thick to thin, also organic, not perfect. I do not want a really straight line. No, that'll look super fake. That's why I really love painting tree trunks and tree branches, is we want them to be kind of wiggly, squiggly, organic, you know? It'll be more realistic. Okay, so I'll give myself a little guideline here. I generally want this first one to go about there, okay? So I gave myself a little bit of a guideline in which direction I want it to go. And then I'm going to start thick, pressing down firm, and then getting skinny as I go. And again, the way you taper it is with how hard you're pressing and the angle that your bristles are going. That was with the angle brush. Let's see how this pointy guy does. And I also, when I'm getting my paint, so I dunked it in water and I'm really like twirling it around in the paint so that it's really on there. And then that way, when I go up, yeah, press down firm and then barely touch it and it gets skinnier. Okay. My next one, yeah, I'll just put a few more branches. Okay, I want branch in the middle. And this one's gonna be about here. I want them kind of bendy and whimsical. And the way I get those is I press down firm at the base. Then once I get toward the skinny part, I'm barely even holding on. I'm just using the very tippy point of it. And one more over here. Mhm. So let's do a little close up. So I've got my branches in there as if I'm looking up into the trees, up through the trees, through the moon. And I might also want a little bit of overlapping. So it really looks like the branches are going up into the trees, right? Not very much. Just getting a little bit of paint. And hey, if you messed up on a branch and it looks super weird, cover it up. Cover it up with a little bit more of your color, you can just say like, oh, this is where the branch is going into the tree, right? Mhm. I'm just overlapping a little bit here where I think it should look like the branches are overlapping, or the leaves rather, are overlapping into the branches. Mhm. Okay, so there's that. And now we're going to problem solve a little with Zoe's painting, just for another example. So we'll take this one down and I'll put our purple guy up. Okay, it looks like she was having trouble getting the thick to thin, that didn't work, the thick to thin thing happening. So we'll just fix it a little bit. I've got my black. These, I think we can just overlap some purple and it'll be just fine. So I'll just make sure it's real nice and thick down here. Go up. Mhm. If towards the top on one of your branches you feel like it's too thick, if you make the bottom a little bit thicker, by comparison, by contrast, the top will look thinner. So if you've got kind of a problem spot, you can do that to fix it. Okay. Just do a few branches here. Okay. All right, so Miss Zoe right here had a few problem areas with her tree trunks at the top. So the way we'll fix that is by just overlapping with some of our paint. Yeah, we'll just dab it on top a little bit. Ooh, moved on me. That scared me. Okay. Just overlap right over that big thick black mark. And then overlap on top of that with purple. And you'll never know there was a problem. I love how forgiving paint is. Like any mess up, really isn't a mess up. It's just like a bump in the road because all you do is you let it dry and you paint over it. No worries. Just layering that medium and light colors over the tops of the branches so that they look like they're really going into the tree. Mhm. To check how it's looking, kind of squint your eyes down and you'll be able to see just the lights and darks to see how everything is blending. Here's Zoe's painting. Very nice, right? There you go, you can have that back. Here's mine. Okay, so last steps would be to just, continue layering those dots until you're happy with it. There does come a point where you just have to stop so it doesn't get all muddy, but sign it. You can paint the edges, just black is a good way to go if you don't want to do the colors of the background. But that is it, friends. I am ready to answer your questions.
And I'm going to go ahead and stop streaming on YouTube. So thank you for joining.